All right, what is up, everyone? This is Sam, and I'm here with Evan Smoke VGC and Wade, aka El Flamingo. How you guys doing?
Good man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, Wade. And I'm good too, Sam. How are you?
I'm
It's
pretty
early in the
good.
morning.
Up a little bit early today to compensate for some time zone issues going on, but we are coming at you today with the quote unquote official power rankings for the Great Lakes Draft League. We're going to be doing all three divisions. We're live right now on Evan Smoke's Twitch channel, and this is all going to go on my YouTube channel. So we are in for the long haul here, going to hammer out all three divisions and then kind of a overall overview going over some overall stats between all three divisions. So we're going to start with Superior here, and we're just going to go in draft order.
Yeah.
So our first team here is Snake King 407 and the Alluring Alchemies. Does one of you guys want to kind of introduce this team here?
I'll go first. Okay, we'll see Dragapult, Blastoise, Cofagrigus, Scizor, Heliolisk, Purloin, Flareon, Terrakion, Clefairy, Diglett, the normal one, and Maractus. In my opinion, this is a Dragapult team, with like Clefairy and pretty creative support options on the other side, like a few support mons included.
Yeah, I like the look of this team overall. Like you can see they went for the Terrapult rounds 1 and 2, and then on their Dragapult was the first pick, and then Terrakion and Clefairy was their wheel pick since they were first pick. So they got the turnaround in the next round there. Um, I like this team. One of my problems is, to me, it struggles against redirection because if you can't get that Terrapult set up, I don't love how much damage the team does. Um, but I
Well, the,
mean,
the other thing as well is like the redirection next to Blastoise Shell Smash. That is going to be a
that is
hard
true.
one to combat.
That is true. Yeah, I've used Blastoise and it's done well without redirection, so I know it's even better with redirection. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think Blastoise also kind of gives another additional form of support in terms of fake out.
yeah,
So that might be
Yeah.
useful. And to me, this team seems overall quite reliant on setup with Clefairy support to get the team going. I
hmm
think Dragapult, Terrakion, Clefairy is very solid and threatening. And then that's what most opponents will have to prep for. And to me, the tools are actually not the most convincing because you require a lot of those support mons to put in a lot of work, and then it might be in terms of speed control. I feel like this team might be tough to operate in Trick Room, especially if the opponent is prepared for something like Copycat Purloin, because you set up Trick Room, then you go for a priority move to make sure the Purloin doesn't copycat your Trick Room. And another
Yeah.
thing that they can be prepared for would be perhaps After You Clefairy, because I think these two are the best answers this team currently has for Trick Room. Therefore, it's quite tough to operate in Trick Room.
yeah, I think it does well. I think it does enough in Trick Room. Yeah, and I like the support pieces here. Purloin, Clefairy, obviously, Cofagrigus is a great TR setter. And I also like that he has a couple mons that don't need to max to deal damage, like Scizor and Flareon. Like those
Yeah,
things
that is
can
true.
handle themselves on their own without maxing. Especially Scizor. I've played Scizor a little bit, and I've never had a reason to max him. Um,
Yeah.
just because
Bullet
of
Punch is too good.
yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, I like that he kind of has a general like it's pretty centralized around a couple Dynamax threats, but he has the support pieces to back that up so that it's not just the same thing every week.
Yeah. I think the one tiny little nitpick is kind of the Kanto Diglett. Like it's there, it can do beat up, but I feel like you're kind of double dipping there. You probably could have got a bit of a stronger tier 5 than a Diglett. Um,
Yeah, where did he pick that? He picked it pick 10.
yeah,
Um,
Maractus is brilliant.
Maractus is great.
Help
Yep.
protect that Terrakion from water moves.
Alright, so then if we go over to this next slide here, we can see the type matchups and the overall rankings that we all gave. So I guess I'll start with mine here. So I give it a 7 out of 10. I like the overall comp. I think that it's a little, even though I know I just said like, oh, I really like that it's built around a couple main Dynamax threats, but you can get around that with the right support. I still don't love only having a couple Dynamax threats, but that's probably just me personally. Um, like, and then looking at it, like, I think there's synergy here, but like some of the picks, like the Diglett, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The Heliolisk is it makes a little bit of sense, but not a ton. So yeah, that's why I gave it a 7.
Yeah, I gave it a rank of 8 because there is quite a lot of team synergy there in terms of the beat up Dragapult, the redirection Clefairy, the Storm Drain Maractus, and then even having Scissor to pick off weakened opponents at the end. I ranked it pretty low in terms of speed control. Like, yes, it has Cofferegus, but um, like there's not much that wants to work in Trick Room. I feel like that's going to be more of a reversing Trick Room, and then it doesn't have a Tailwind option, so it's really going to be max Airstreams, um, and Icy Winds to kind of get that speed control. I quite like the kind of general tools of the team. It has Follow Me, it has lots of helping hand, it has screens, it has um, lots of abilities like the Clefairy's Friend Guard that can really help the team out. And I think it will be a threat if you don't have a way to deal with it. And like I said, if you have the redirection for the beat up, he can just come in and shell smash and blast you away with Blastoise. So it's it's definitely a potentially tough matchup, and you will have to uh, pick off all the threats when you're prepping for it.
So for me, at the bottom end of the spectrum, for me, I rank this team a bit lower in terms of threat and tools because their tools are quite obvious, and then sometimes their modes are obvious, and it can be quite easy to prep against this team. So that was just my opinion, and based on the 4 criteria I came up with, then my average score turned out to be 6.25. So I think we meet in the middle with Sam's score as an average of 7.1 for the total grade. For those on stream who are asking, this grade is actually just sort of like from 1 to 10. So we each give a grade from 1 to 10, and then we come up with an average number. And here we end up with 7.1 out of 10. So there is no like sort of grade for the whole draft in general, like from 1 to 13. This is just a numerical grade that we are giving to every team.
Yep. Alright, so looks like we can move on now to our next team here, which is Chris Allen, VGC, and the Ocala Obstagoons. So he was second pick in this draft, and round 1 he took Glastrier, which, so how we did it in this league is basically we had a tier 0, which was a couple Mons, and we decided that they were worth a little bit more than the average power level of the tier 1 that we constructed. So basically, instead of 50 points for a tier 1 or one of your tier 1 slots, you actually had to use a tier 0. You had to use a free slot to get a tier 0, and it was 60 points for everything, but 70 points for Glastrier because Glastrier is so strong. So I was wondering if Glastrier would go. I kind of thought it would, but I wasn't sure. So yeah, the first picks here, Glastrier and Dusclops, makes a lot of sense. I believe he traded Dusclops for Colossal later on, but just for the sake of this, we're reviewing as the team was drafted, not as they've traded. But yeah, I love the Glastrier Dusclops core, and the Pheromosa speed swap is good. The Chansey was unfortunate. He was going for Chansey Shuckle, but then Wade sniped Shuckle.
No way I'm playing against Chansey Shuckle. Stuff that.
And then there's a couple picks that confused me, like the Dusclops and Dusknoir being on the same team, but later on, I kind of, like, once he made the Dusclops trade, it made a little bit more sense. But what were you guys' thoughts on this team?
For me, I would say that this is actually a spicy team that can pack a punch with good surprises. It's actually really spicy because you see like duplicate types. You have two bug types, and then you have a Dusclops and a Dusknoir. So I understand that this player is trading for and a trade will come into effect in week 2, right?
Yeah.
So in week 1 he's still using this team. So I think a few notes from me. The team has a massive weakness to max airstream. You can see in the next slide that they would have, I think, 5 weaknesses to flying, and then also weakness to rock, and additionally into ghost. But actually, a lot of their mons have ally switch or quirky ways to catch their opponent off guard. So there might be some interesting unorthodox tools that come into play, but they require good switching and good calls to get way ahead in the game and try and steal wins. The speed tiers are all super interesting because the fast and slow mons sandwich the majority of the teams. Then, however, this team might have to commit to either Trick Room or to go really, really fast, and that might be a call that they have to make. Then, I have a small note here. Dynamax Pheromosa can actually be very devastating in the hands of a creative player. What do you guys think?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of overlapping types. It's got 3 bug types, 2 ghost types, 2 grass types, and I think that might be a bit too easy to take advantage of. But he's got Coolfish, so best draft in the league. Absolutely, got Coolfish.
Nice. No wonder you ranked it higher. You can see your score here is 6.
No, I like the options that it does have. Like Pheromosa can even speed swap onto something like Dusknoir, which has the base 100 attack. So it doesn't just need to go into the Glastrier. And Pheromosa is an offensive threat of itself. Like, is it going to be physical? Is it going to be special? So I like most of the mods, but I just don't like some of them together. So
That makes sense.
That's yeah.
Yeah, like,
And
I agree. If we go to this next
Yeah,
slide,
that's all I have. Yep.
yeah, if we go to this
You can
next
see
slide,
like the weaknesses, right? You can see 5 weaknesses to fire, but only 2 resist, and then 5 weaknesses to flying with 0 resist, and additionally you
Yeah.
have 4 on rock, and then 2 on ghost, and only 1 immune, which is the Chansey. So there might be some ally switch plays involved that can
Yeah.
help to advance the game if you choose to Dynamax a ghost type.
yeah. So I gave it a 4 out of 10, and my biggest problem with, and I see some people saying this in chat right now, you are 100% reliant on Blaster on this team. Like, there's other things like that can do damage, like Pheromosa, Golisopod, kind of Dusknoir, but like, to me, this team is like, you're not doing enough if you're not bringing Glastrier every week, which, I mean, if you're spending that many points on Glastrier, you probably should bring it every week. But my problem comes with, like, if you prep for Glastrier, I mean, yeah, you need to keep some other things in mind, but to me, this team is, like, pretty easy to prep for on the surface. And and then also, like, I don't know, like, the overlapping types, like the fire typing, having 5 fire weaknesses on a team where you're potentially setting Sun is also dangerous.
Yeah.
True.
And again, like, yeah, someone said, Swede PS4 said, Max Airstream beats Speed Swap, and he has no switch-ins to a Max Airstream. So that is pretty tough. Like, if he speed swaps, you're going to take 1 attack from Glastrier, and then next turn you're faster. So, I'm not the hugest fan here.
Yeah,
No.
I feel like this overall grade seems fair. So I think every week, week in, week out, I feel like Chris Allen really needs to work very hard, work the matchup, and come up with interesting surprises to try and catch his opponent off guard and try and win
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, I feel this is a team where the coach is going to have to work harder to pick up the slack for the team.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
that's all we have.
Yeah. All right. Going on to the third team here. We've got Piano Guy 27, aka Ryan, and the Boston Breloons. So this one, when we look at the draft order, we have to keep in mind that he actually picked up this draft halfway through. We unfortunately had to replace someone halfway through the draft. So this is not really exactly the order that he might have taken things had he actually drafted the whole thing. Because he came in, I believe, pick 4 or 5 and replaced almost all the previous picks. And then from pick 6 on, he mostly did his own thing. So some of the things I like about this team is the offensive threats are super good, like, and super diverse. Like Cartana, Surfetched is very underrated in my opinion. Like, if you, I believe you can Oko a Glastrier with like a helping hand crit close combat or something.
Yeah, with that leap.
Yeah. And the other thing I really like is the Cartana Latias. I think is a super cool core, and combining that with Mimikyu, this was in my opinion. I wrote this down on my notes. One of the coolest and probably strongest fantasy cores in this division.
Nice.
I really like that, and the support options are great too. Like, honestly, Delibird for a tier 5 is not bad at all. Obviously, you're not killing stuff with it, but you're faking out and you're ice sharding, which Latias is a pretty good weakness policy holder, in my experience. So, yeah, I like this team a lot. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, for
No,
me,
I love
let's
this
move
team.
on. Yeah, let's move on to the next page, right? Because you can see that the total types that Ryan drafted was 17, and there are only 18 types in Pokemon.
Yeah.
So he's drafted everything except for, I believe, Bug. Oh no, not Bug. Man, I forgot what was missing. So I thought that this was a very creative collection of mons. Even though that some mons had repeat typings, 17 total types is still very impressive, and I think it will pay dividends going through the league. And it's very threatening to go up against during prep because the team allows for a lot of creativity to get into good positions. And this team will always have the leeway to position well, do some damage control, maybe tailwind, trick room, to allow their strong attackers to come in and snowball and sweep, like mons with beast boost, especially Katana.
Yeah, what are your
Yeah, how
thoughts,
about you,
Wade?
Wade?
No, I really like this team. I love that he got pretty much all the types. He's kind of weak on the special attacking side of things. So I feel you're coming up against this team, you're going to have to invest a lot more in your defense than in your special defense. Because what's his highest? 110, coming off Latias and Jolteon. But huge, huge physical attacking presence there between the Surfetched and the Katana. But you can't really fault it. It's going to be a tough team to prep for because you pretty much have to prep for 11 Pokemon. It's not like a Diglett or something like that you don't have
Well
to prep
said,
for
yeah.
as much. You have to prep for everything. So yeah, I really like this team. I rated it an 8. I think on the type diversity, I gave it a 10 out of 10. So yeah, I think that's one of the better teams in the draft.
Yeah,
Nice.
I agree. So I gave it a 7. To me, it was on the verge of 8. Like, if I would have had decimals in my ratings, it probably would have been like a 7.5 or something. My only thing with this team, and really, yeah, like Wade said, my only big issue was, if you're prepping for this team, you're bringing physical bulk and like Will-O-Wisp and Intimidate and stuff, and you're gonna do decently well against it, like Kartana, Mimikyu, Araquanid, even Unpheasant if he's running like a crit set or whatever.
Yeah.
Nidoking can be both, so I'll give it that. And Sirfetch'd is also physical, but I know it gets scrappy, so you're not intimidating it. So a lot of his stuff gets intimidated, and to me, the physical, the special presence isn't there. Like if your strongest special attackers are Jolteon and Latias, that's a little bit of an issue. I know Nidoking has Sheer Force, so that actually might be one of his best options as well. But you're not maxing that almost ever. So to me, the damage output, from my experience, I've used Nidoking a lot, is Nidoking can be really good, but like sometimes it misses calcs, especially against Dynamax targets.
Yeah.
True, there's a very good catch there. I think this team seems to be trending towards the physical attacking side. Chat is saying shoutouts to Ryan for drafting a few interesting birds like Delibird 11 out of 10, Surfetch 10 out of 10, and there's also Unpheasant. We hope that maybe Ryan actually brings the Scope Lens or Razor Claw crit set. That will be something exciting to see.
Yeah.
Alright.
Alright, moving on to the fourth team here.
The best team!
It's yours. It's Wade's team.
Alright, so for Wade's team and for my team, we're just gonna we'll defer to Wade if we have any questions or whatever. And we're obviously gonna let him talk about it. But just to keep any like potential bias out of it, me and Evan will give our takes first.
Okay.
So my first take on this team is I really like the Trick Room mode is super strong. Like Togekiss Stakataka on its own is like insanely busted. Also Togekiss as a round 1 pick is really good. And it's diverse, like it can be physical, it can, or not physical, sorry, offensive. Don't run physical. Wade, don't do it.
Hustle Togekiss, mate. What are you talking
Hustle
about?
Togekiss one day, yeah.
But no, I mean, there's a little bit of type overlap, and some of the like the Firewater Grass core to me, which is not the hugest deal, is a little weak because like Marowak Alola is really good, but you know Basculin and Lurantis are a little weak. Not that they're bad picks. I like the picks in the tier, but and maybe this is just like a me thing. I like to have my Firewater Grass core as more of a like more higher or mid tier picks versus lower picks necessarily. Not that that's how everyone has to do it, obviously, but I also like the Hitmontop to pick up like Wide Guard to protect Stack Attacker from Earthquakes because Togekiss doesn't do that. I like the Shuckle Snipe. Took one for the team there. And the Indeedee Slurpuff mode is great. Slurpuff supports Indeedee really well. Gets speed control stuff, fake tears stuff. And honestly, Dugtrio is also great. Trapping things, especially on a team with this much offensive presence, can be great.
Yeah, so for me, my one-liner for this team is actually a well-balanced team with very strong, fast, and slow modes. So the team is generally bulky, but it needs to work hard to get into a good position to do a lot of damage because it needs to either set up a Tailwind or set up Trick Room. And it has, not set up Tailwind, right, but go for max airstreams, right? So it also has useful tools such as Frisk, Intimidate. I hope I'm on the right notes. Yeah, Frisk, Intimidate, Fake Out, Unburden. And these could be all exploited since the support mons don't threaten a lot of damage right off the bat. So there's a high tendency to go Trick Room because all the powerful attackers are slow in Stakataka and Marowak Alola. And all these Trick Room mons, they cannot be underestimated at all. And I feel like Wade drafted Clawitzer, right? Respect because it's a mascot pick because it learns Crab Hammer.
So yeah, I mean, so I rated this team. Oh, I don't know why I rated it a 6. I probably would actually change it to a 7, but I probably gave it a 6 just because I don't love some of the type overlap. But
Yeah, you did explain it, yes.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I wanted
yeah.
to start with something that was versatile as my first pick. So I was looking at Togekiss, Celesteela or Dragapult, and I wanted Togekiss first because I haven't used that in draft yet, so I thought that was pretty good, and I got it. My next pick was a Stack Attacker, so I wanted to start doing the Fantasy Core and have something that was a bit slower. And again, I hadn't used Stack Attacker before, so I was pretty interested in getting some experience with that under my belt. Then I regret the Marowak a little bit. It is good in Trick Room, but I feel a faster Lightning Rod Mon would have been probably a bit better, say a Raichu or a Manectric. But it does have the damage, and it can do work in Trick Room. The Hitmontop I got because early on in Sword and Shield, Hitmontop Togekiss was a strong pairing. The Intimidate would help the Togekiss physical bulk, but then you could also proper weakness policy with the Bullet Punch. So that was I wanted to get a strong pairing, so that's why I went the Hitmontop. The Noivern was to complete my Fantasy Core and also give me something a bit faster, a way that I can set up Tailwind. Not that many of my mons at the moment can take advantage of that, but I felt that was a pretty good tier 3 pick to get. The Shuckle, I only got that because Chris had just got the Chansey, and we're going our way back up the draft, and I just didn't want to have the tools to deal with Chansey Shuckle, so that's why I picked up Shuckle. Then I was thinking, I've got one 2-mon mode in the Hitmontop and Togekiss. I would like another 2-mon mode. And saw that Indeedee Male was left. So I picked up Indeedee Male and then went the Slurpuff so I could get another 2-mon combo there. And then have a lot of physical mons. We look at Stack Attacker, we look at Hitmontop, we look at Alolan Marowak. So I wanted some way to kind of punish Intimidate or Max Dragon, that sort of stuff. And I needed to fill my grass slot, so I got Lurantis, and because it has a contrary ability, and it can slowly snowball teams with its contrary ability. So I actually quite like that as part of my Fire, Water, Grass core. I wanted something else over the base 100, and I didn't have a ground type, so I went with Dugtrio since it was the fastest mon left in tier 4. And then I just got Basculin because it's a tier 5 that kind of rounded out my Fire, Water, Grass core, but also gave me some offense with adaptability. So late game, adaptability, Aquajet can pick off pretty much everything that isn't named Gastrodon.
Huh. And you can also weakness policy Stack Attack with Aquajet as well.
Yeah, and I've got like the Vacuum Wave and Mach Punch on Hitmontop to do that as well.
Yeah, Hitmontop is like a good toolbox for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I can use Shuckle on my team. Otherwise, it's just kind of a dead spot. But I'm not game to put it back up until after I play Chris.
Let it be everyone else's problem.
That might be the plan. Hold on the Shuckle until I play Chris, and then trade it off.
That's funny.
And hope I don't play him in the finals.
So yeah, I feel Wade needs to put in a bit of work. I understand that some of the mons are quite new to you in terms of usage. So yeah, I think just feel free. Yeah, try and build around, mess around with the team and see how you can use it to its full potential. I feel like it needs a bit of work. You need to always get your mons into good positions. Then make full use of your Dynamax turns and try and sweep the game. There's certainly that potential to do so. Anyway, Rolo says, ping me when it's Eerie time. I gotta hit the work.
Gotcha, okay. Rolo.
Enjoy your work.
Alright.
And also, the final grade is 6.9. Nice.
Yep. Alright.
Yeah, I was expecting that. I wasn't expecting a high grade on mine. I think I've got the tools to take down the top teams, but like you said, like Chris's team, I'm going to have to work harder than the team because just to pick up the slack for the team.
Well, and I will say, the way I ranked it was not based. I took the coach factor out of it, so I did
Yeah.
not like rank based on like, oh, I know the coach is going to do well with this team. But if I was, I would have ranked this a lot higher because I know, Wade, I know your playstyle and I know you will do well with this team.
Just so you
Nice,
know,
that
I'm
makes
flexing
sense.
right now.
All right, that's all we have for Wade's team.
All right, moving on
So I
here.
pick the next one.
All
Oh,
right.
Sasori is in chat.
Yeah, he is. All right, so next up is Sasori and the Greedy Greninjas. He was 5th pick, and he took Incineroar round 1. His plan was to take Togekiss before Wade sniped him the pick before.
Nice.
So I actually played this team week 1. So I've looked at this team a lot because I've already been prepping a little bit. I like the general kind of comp here in terms of he has some pretty good offensive pieces like Serena, like Escavalier. Even Wade can attest to weakness policy Bronzong being really good. So, things like that. And even, I mean, I've seen Incin. I'm not a strong believer in offensive Incineroar, but it it works sometimes. Um, kind of as like a bulky Dynamax option. Um,
Yep.
the Electivire also, I mean, base 123. The stats aren't great, but the attack stats pretty good. And Wishy Washy when it's schooling is also pretty good. Um, a couple things that like definitely stand out to me about this team are all of its main offensive threats are physical. I mean, Wishy Washy can be either. So like that, but like really, I mean, he doesn't really have anything else that's doing special damage on this team. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of Jinx, but you're never like really trying. I don't feel like you're really trying to do
Yeah, like trying
damage
to
with it.
like Dynamax and maybe do like crazy damage, right?
Right.
Use
I mean,
Sash
and
and
Jinx
only
is
gets
great.
off 1 or 2 ice beams. Yeah.
Yeah, Jinx is great because I mean you can just run like one attack, Icy Wind, Lovely Kiss, Fake Out, and that's like a good set. I like Jinx a lot, and especially as a tier 4, I think it's good value. And Togetic is
Yeah,
obviously
great.
like I think a lot of drafts put Togetic more in the tier 3 range, and the fact that we put it in the tier 2 range, and I still think it's a phenomenal pick, says a lot about how good Togetic is.
Yeah.
With
From
that
my end,
Eviolite, it outpops a Togekiss, doesn't it?
I believe so.
yeah, it does.
Mm.
It does. From my end, take a look at the average total, right? Base stat total. It's more than 500. That's very impressive,
Yeah, that's
especially
nuts.
when Sasori drafted even a Togetic. So the amount of bulk this team has and the amount of power it has can be quite strong. However, Sam is correct in identifying that this team seems to want to go physical more than special, and if it goes special, then if it catches you off guard, it might be something that you can recover from. So I'm moving on to the total types. There's 15 types, and the type chart looks pretty okay. They do have a good fire, water, grass core with an excellent supporting cast. And I think this team requires a bit of setup to get it going. So the team needs to pay attention to intimidate or max steel spike spam or even iron defense mons, right? Because of their strong physical attack stats from most of their mons. And lastly, I think the team mostly wants to play in trick room and has to work hard to catch opponents off guard with a potential fast mode, but then I feel like it's mostly trick room. To me, this feels like a budget Series 10 Kyogre team, but I think it's Series 9 Kyogre team, but the Kyogre has to max because it doesn't this Kyogre doesn't learn Water Spout. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I have.
How about
No,
you,
I
Wade?
quite like the speed distribution here because the fastest thing we're going up against at the moment is a Pheromosa. So a lot of his mons could be EV to outspeed Pheromosa after Crobat's tower wins up. And you can't fake out a Crobat. Is it? Does it have inner focus? Yeah, it's got inner focus.
Yeah, inner
So
focus.
it's quite a reliable tailwind setup. So you could easily go fast with this, but then those same mons that you can EV to outspeed things under tailwind could then underspeed the rest of the team in trick room, because you don't have to invest as much into the speed because you've got the tailwind or the trick room option. So I think his speed control is really good. Between the Crobat and the Bronzong. And then you've also got things like Icy Wind and from the Jinx.
Yeah.
Electivire get the Electro Web?
I don't remember. I think it should. However, its special attack is not that high, right?
No.
Yeah, and its speed tier is not great either. Well, 95 I guess isn't bad.
Yeah, those are useful speed control options. I think that's a good catch from Wade.
Yeah. My thing about this team as well is, like, if you look at it, like, Togetic Bronzong, like, how are you stopping Trick Room from going up? There's very few ways to stop Togetic Bronzong lead from getting Trick Room up. I mean, I'm struggling with this myself. I didn't, like, on my team, I didn't really draft much of a Trick Room mode, and so I've been toiling over how to stop the Trick Room from going up. Yeah, like you can.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then also the mind games. I love Bronzong so much. Like the mind games of what ability is it going to be? Is it going to be heat proof? Is it going to be levitate? And then if so, what berry is it going to have? Stuff like that. That's just really tough to prep for.
I think it's something I'd like to see on this team is like one of the more rubbish Rotom forms that could spam Discharge next to Electivire. That would be nice.
Oh yeah.
And Electivire can spam, Earthquake or Thunder Punch or whatever. They won't share any common weaknesses since they're off the ground. Or he could have even gone a Mulga or something like that as a tier 5. That would have been a nice one.
Yeah, you could run like a Scarf Rotom Frost or something like that, and it's tier 3 pick, so you're not really losing much. Yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, so the average grade here from us is a 7.3, and we're gonna move on unless you guys have anything more to say.
No, I like that team.
All right, so this is my team, so I will let you guys start this one off.
Nice.
Probably the worst team.
All right, I think I'll start off, and I think that this is so. If all of you watch like Dan or Stout Gaming's like introduction to VTC, right? This should be the fabled Coco Devo core, and I think it has an excellent supporting cast. I feel like the Fairy Dragon Steel core, the Fantasy core, is fantastic. I think it rivals the one with the Mimikyu, and it has plenty of options to get creative and always use Dynamax to its full potential. The team lacks redirection, but the inherent bulk and the good options for defensive switching will certainly make up for it. So I feel like this is definitely a flexible team that can play in Trick Room or Tailwind. I think it does have that bulk to play in Trick Room. I'm not sure about going up against Bronzong, but I feel like Sam, you should have it in you to prep well and go up against the opponent's team.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, how about you? Yeah, how about you, Wade? I really like this team. Yeah.
I love this team. This is a brilliant team. I think it's the strongest fantasy core. It's got a extremely good Firewater Grass core. It covers a lot of typing. It's very hyper offensive, but you're right. It still does have the bulk to do what it needs to. Has a lot of physical attackers, but then it also has the competitive Gothitelle to make up for that. I rate this team. It's probably the best team in the league.
Oh, shucks.
And that 508 average base stat total says that as well.
Yeah, cool. So I appreciate the kind words, guys. So yeah, my general thoughts with this team were I was looking at potential. So I was 6th pick, which on a 12-man draft, that's pretty rough. So I didn't go into it with like a super set plan. But I kind of developed a couple cores that I thought were unlikely to get sniped from me. The first of which being Coco Garchomp, and then once
that's crazy.
And then once I got those two, then I was looking for a steel type to round that out, and Corviknight was perfect because it switches into ground type attacks for Coco, and it also mirror reflects intimidate for to deter intimidate off Garchomp, and it's just Coco and Garchomp are so fast, and like they're especially Garchomp, the bulk is respectable but not insane. So getting Corviknight was a nice bulky switch in to a lot of things, especially a mon with only 2 weaknesses. Um, and one thing I was always wary of with this team was if I'm setting electric terrain, I need to not have any crazy electric weaknesses because people will abuse my terrain. Um, and there's like random mons that get rising voltage and stuff, so I was always like wary of that. But the nice thing with Corviknight is it's not on the terrain, so like rising voltage doesn't hit it. And then Rotom, so I'm not normally the hugest fan of doubling up on typings in general. Like I try to stay away from it where I can. But the thing with Rotom was that it was a tier 3, which was a very good value for Rotom, and it levitates, so it doesn't have any like doubled weaknesses with Coco, except poison, which I wasn't worried about. And it can, it gets a pretty strong rising voltage because it doesn't get the terrain boost, the 1.3, because it's levitating, but it does get the double damage from rising voltage if the target is on the terrain. And then from there, I was just kind of filling out some cores. I took Blaziken because fire types were really limited, so I wanted to get a strong one there. And then, Gothitelle, Clawitzer was a great option for me to have a special attacker that doesn't need to max. Thievul is pretty obvious here, and then my last few picks were just rounding out some typings and support roles.
Yeah, you really took your low tiers. What am I trying to say? Your low tier picks are real good value.
Yep.
Super good value between the Thievul, the Cryogonal, the Poltegeist, and the Sudowoodo, and the Kloitzer. Your tier 4s and tier 5s are brilliant, and they're not shuckle.
I'd also like to point out, and I maybe wouldn't say this if I hadn't already talked about it in the Discord server, but Clawitzer on electric terrain, its terrain pulse is stronger than a stab hydro pump if they're both neutral, which is pretty.
That's a very good tech. Yeah.
It's pretty insane. But yeah,
You can take advantage of other people's terrains as well with Kloitzer too.
Yep. But yeah, I was.
So Rain Team.
Sorry, go ahead.
Rillaboom. Rain Team with Rillaboom. That Politoed isn't going to like to take a grassy terrain pulse.
For sure. But yeah, I was happy with how my team turned out, and if you guys have any other thoughts for it.
No, that's all I have.
All right.
My one thing that got the rating down a little bit was lack of consistent speed control. Like you do have Trick Room with Gothitelle and Tailwind with Corviknight, but Corviknight's quite a slow Tailwind setup, so you'd probably need a bit more support to get that set up. But other than that, that was my only qualm with your team.
Yeah, I would agree that
slightly slow Tailwind.
Yeah, that and my lack of redirection was a little rough for me, but I kind of good redirector didn't really fall to me, so I just kind of.
Personally, I feel like in terms of speed control, you can always get creative. You can scarf certain mons, go for electro web, hint.
Yeah.
That could put you always into a good position and catch people off guard in a game 1 situation. You steal game 1, then you come up with a different mode to steal game 2, then you win the game entirely.
Yeah, and I've looked at Cryogonal is a base 105 speed with Icy Wind. Coco's base 130 speed with Electro Web. Rotom is a good Scarf Electro Web user. So I'm not I agree that it could be better, but I'm not super worried about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Mine a nitpick.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. All right. Next up here, We've got Toxic Crusader and the Tennessee Talon Flames. So he was 7th pick. So we're kind of starting to get into the later half of the draft now. His first pick was Cinderace, followed by Regidrago, and he took Tornadus out of tier 0. It costed 60 points. So he took Tornadus. I like this team a lot. The overall comp is strong in terms of typings that he covered. I like the Tangela as a redirector, especially in tier 3. I think it's pretty good value there.
Absolutely.
Regidrago, I like the spicy pick, and I'm sure I'm probably sleeping on Regidrago a little bit, but to me, like with in a draft like this where you have such a limited pick out of the top 2 tiers, because you only get a maximum of 4 out of tier 1 and 2, so you really have to like be able to rely on those picks. And to me, Regidrago, there's some matchups where you're just gonna be unable to bring it because like you're gonna have to position it so well that you're not in front of a fairy type and just get smacked. So like.
Yeah.
I don't hate the pick, and I'm sure I'm sleeping on it. But again, like it's a little. I don't love it as a tier 2 pick. That being said, the Trick Room mode is pretty good. Tangela Slowbro is pretty. It's pretty hard to stop Trick Room there. I think Impidimp is a good tier 5 pick. I mean, Prankster. I don't think it gets all the same moves as Grimmsnarls, but it's pretty similar.
Yeah, it doesn't get the screens.
Yeah, that does suck, but I mean, this team is bulky enough that it's really. I think it's gonna be okay without it. What are you guys' thoughts?
For
Well-
me, my one-liner for this team would be Cinderace Regidrago team, because that presents the biggest threat in terms of prepping against this team. And somehow this team has a lot of single type mons. You can see from the type chart. To me, this is almost hyper offensive because it does very well if you call the leads right. Sort of like the nut call, like a Nihilego Urshifu Thunderous, right? As long as you can snowball with air streams or max strikes from maybe a Regidrago, right? And then you're gonna take very quick KOs and snowball with fantastic turn 1 plays. Then in general, this team actually has good tools that demand respect, including Rage Powder, Defiant from Tornadus, right? Coaching, screens, and even Lightning Rod. So this team, to me, actually, it might struggle in terms of defense because they can be quite frail because they always want to go max speed and max attack in EVs. Then that takes away a lot of your EVs in bulk. So this team really has to strive to take KOs as quick as possible to get ahead in the game and take those wins.
It's very weak on the specially defensive side. So I feel like if you're coming against this team, you're going to be attacking that special defense a lot.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that. You're right.
But it is also worth noting, even though we're only going off by the base draft, didn't he trade Marchamp for Regice?
He did.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
That's a good trade.
So
I do think that's a good
that
trade.
gives him an extra type and help makes up for that. But based on this, you're definitely coming in with your heavy special attackers. And yeah, that Reggie. Oh, the other thing was Regidrago doesn't like fairies, and he's got no poison or steel type to help deal with that. Like,
I mean, Cinderace counts pretty
gets-
much.
Sorry,
I mean, I think Cinderace pretty much counts for that.
Cinderace is the every type.
Yeah.
So that's probably my only my two biggest qualms are the lack of a way to consistently take down fairies, and also there's no special defense bulk there at all.
Yeah, from this type chart, we can see that the team has 4 mons weak to fairy. I think Machamp, trading the Machamp for Regice is a good move, reducing the double fighting mons on the team. Then there will be 3 weak to fairy and only 1 resist. So yeah, that might be some trouble going up against extremely strong fairy mons that want to Dynamax on turn 1.
Yeah. Also, the other thing is too. We were talking about the relatively low Spadef, but he gets Regice as a trade, which buffs up that His special
Yeah, it
defense.
does.
What is it? Base 200 or something?
Yeah, base 200.
So yeah, I like that trade a lot, and I remember him saying in the chat because he took Machamp in the second to last round, and I remember him picking Sock, and he was like, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't have taken Machamp when Sock was available." So I think that was kind of a, oh shoot, this is better value. Let me take this and trade off the other thing. Um,
Nice.
and I agree with that call there.
My gosh, shout outs to all three of us because Toxic Crusader is the 7th to draft, and then we all rated his team 7. Jeez, how
Sevens all
lucky can
around.
this get? Wow, what a coincidence.
That's funny. All right. So next up, we've got the 8th pick, and that is Keaton with the Dallas Delibirds. So he took Excadrill round 1, and then from there he took a pretty solid core of Braviary, Gyarados, Togedemaru. I like that Lightning Rod in there. And then he took a Sand Setter, which I believe was tier 3.
He posed tier
Yeah,
3,
well,
Yeah, okay. And then Turtonator, Duraludon, I like. So one of my big things with this team is there's quite a few common weakness overlapping going on in terms of fighting and ground. Excadrill, Turtonator's weak to ground, Togedemaru's weak to ground and fighting 4 times, which doesn't matter, it's frail enough, it's just gonna die. But Turtonator, Duraludon, both weak to ground. Duraludon's weak to fighting. Weezing can be weak to ground if you're not running Levitate. So my biggest issue with this team was the type matchups are not great, but it's also you can build around it pretty well because ground and fighting are both mostly physical, and Excadrill can spam max Steel Spike, and Gyarados gets Intimidate, so I don't think it's awful.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my week 1 team, week 1 opponent. So he definitely has the matchup on me. So I have been doing prep overtime for this. I might have to send you my team through, Evan.
Nice, so far. Okay.
Not now. Not going to talk about it now. So yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this team. It is got, I think I rated it 8 overall, but it was actually under 8 if I averaged out my individual ratings. There's lots of overlapping types, like we said, and in terms of speed control, it has a hard time getting Tailwind up, and if Trick Room goes up against it, like there's not a lot of great mons that can, like you've got Turtonator and Cradilly, and then not putting on a lot of offensive pressure. So if someone can get Trick Room up against this team, it's going to be tough for him to kind of stall that out. But he has got ways to not let Trick Room get up. Like, he's got the Rapidash there. He's got spread moves with Excadrill. So,
And also
where
there's a rock slide, there's a way.
If you can flinch your way out of trouble, then that is something that Keaton spoke about a lot. Is he like, I've got Excadrill which can flinch, I've got Gyarados which can flinch, I've got Togedemaru which can flinch, I've got Hippowdon which can flinch, and so he's quite obsessed with flinching, which I think is going to be his go-to strat.
I did. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, this team is okay. There's too much overlapping, and there's 2 really big weaknesses that you could punch holes in if need be.
Yeah, I did put in my notes that this team might struggle against a well-played Trick Room team. To me, I have a soft spot with Sand teams because I use Sand teams to cut a few local events, and to me, this seems to be a well-assembled Sand team. With Braviary, is that Braviary? Yeah. To discourage the opponent from leading Intimidate, and this team actually has many ways to bulk up because that's usually what a Sand team wants to do, keep getting those max skill spike boosts. And I believe Hippowdon gets access to body press, and that can be quite devastating because
Yep.
Hippowdon has a quite high defense stat. So to me, this is an impressive Sand core with very good flying type mons and good support tools to always protect the main Dynamax mons. Lightning Rod and Storm Dream. That's very interesting. So this team actually, for me, it had a good threat level, so I ranked it quite high because most of the attackers have fantastic moves to always make sure they can bulk the team out and maybe stall out the opponent's Dynamax. However, one downside of this team, if we can see from the stats, is that it has too many physical attackers. So it can be quite easy for the opponent to prep against them, use Will-O-Wisp or Reflect to try and stall out the team as much as possible. Maybe hit them on the special side in return.
Yeah, I was just looking, and one of my things with this team as well is the Trick Room mode, like you guys both pointed out, is relatively weak, but there's also like he doesn't have a really great way of stopping Trick Room from going up. Like we've had a couple teams already that like they don't really want to play under Trick Room, but they have a couple mons that can stop it. Whereas this team like fake out low punny. There's a couple like mid-low speed taunt users here, but
Yeah,
like
I mean there are some ways. I just want to point out that Duraludon, avoids it ignores redirection, and you can always proc Duraludon with bulldoze from anyone, even Gyarados.
right.
So that might be something that Keaton would look forward to. I think Keaton has been shouting in chat every time we say Trick Room matchup, he says Duraludon back. So there might be a way. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all my thoughts on this team. How about you guys? You guys good?
Yeah,
Sweet.
good.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on
69
to
again.
nice. All right. So this is Dan, member of our mod team, and the terrible Trubai. So. Round one, he took Zapdos Galar, and this was kind of a pick that he hyped up a little bit. Like, he was kind of telling everyone how Zapdos Galar is slept on, and in Tier 2 it's a really good steal. And I agree. I think it is a really good steal in Tier 2. That was one that when we were making the tier list, we debated between Tier 1 and Tier 2, and we decided to be a little weak for Tier 1, so we left it in 2. But overall, I like this team. I like the Firewater Grass Core of Arcanine, Azumarill, Delmise is really powerful in my opinion. Glaceon, I love as a low tier pick. I have a very big soft spot for Glaceon. Magneton and Sliggoo I also think are pretty good tier 5 picks. Like Magneton's bulk is respectable with Eviolite, and 120 special attack is pretty good. Aurora's obviously, got some 4 times weaknesses and stuff, but it does damage. With like Refrigerate, Hyper Voice, or Blizzard, or Weather Control, Blizzard Spam, gives him a decent matchup against opposing weather as well. Since it's pretty slow, you're pretty likely to get weather up, and there's no Torkoal in this league. But yeah, I like this team overall. I think the Trick Room mode is strong. I believe I rated it an 8 out of 10. So, what are you guys' thoughts?
He's also got the beat up option there as well with the Arcanine Crocodile.
Right, that's true.
I'm sure Glaceon or Aurorus will get Frost Breath. So if you slap a Choice Scarf on that, you could activate an Anger Point with Crocodile. So it actually does have some big threats that are kind of, Arcanine isn't your typical justified Pokemon. It's generally thought of as an Intimidate Pokemon. So you could catch some people off guard. And same with the Crocodile. Again, it's an Intimidate mon, but catch people off guard with a sneaky Frost Breath from a Glaceon.
Yeah, Anger Point. Yeah.
Does it does Glaceon and Aurora
Oh, it
Frost Breath?
doesn't. No, yeah, they don't.
It
also,
damn it.
no, actually, this also kind of reminds me of what Dan likes to say, because I watched those videos of preparing for VGC draft leagues, and then Dan is a huge he doesn't like Anger Point Crocodile. He kept saying don't ever use it. So maybe he won't ever use, but we'll see how it goes. Cause personally, I've used Batik. Batik has access to Frost Breath, Batik Crocodile, and it won me a game in RPDL. So
I
anything
did
can
see that.
happen.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah. From my
Um,
end, I'll let you finish. Wait.
I was just going to say, like, it's the speed tiers. Everything seems a bit too fast for Trick Room, and there's no real way to set Tailwind. So that's probably the only qualm.
I see. So from my end, I can totally tell that this is a player that is experienced in draft leagues and especially in that drafting aspect. To me, this is your everyday good stuffs team that always wants to get into a good position to win games. You know, especially with that Arcanine, does its job very well. Then, if you look at the typings, once again, this is another very good collection of mons. 17 types in total is extremely impressive, and I think Dan could actually change the Glaceon to something like Shedinja or Scyther because Dark type is the type that's missing, and there will be although there will be a few important pieces trying to vie for that Eviolite because he has a lot of NFE mons. So all his mons are actually middling speed. So the team tends to want to be bulky and slow. You invest more in HP, and then invest a lot in either attack or special attack. Yet, still be able to do good damage back to hyper offensive threats. Then this team, in a sense, it has to really rely on that Indeedee female. So that's a good pickup. In tier 2, it even got all the way back to Dan. And so you rely on Indeedee female plus a few good reads to get your team going. Be it in Trick Room or in opposing Tailwind, where you can always use your own max airstreams to good effect.
Yeah, I agree. I like this team a lot. I was gonna say that I like the Indeedee Slowbro like expanding force core as well. Um, if you click follow me Trick Room and then next turn you get 2 expanding forces off, that's pretty strong.
True.
Alright, are we good with this one? Got a 7.9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Alright. Moving on to 10th pick, which was Ben and the House Luxray. So he started off with Tapu Fini out of tier 0. I was actually, Tapu Fini was the number 1 tier 0 that I was unsure if it was going to go or not because I felt like it was maybe the weakest tier 0, but I think he built around it pretty well here. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't realize that it was from tier 0. I just assumed that the Grimstar was the first pick. Yeah, so interesting that I put the draft order there.
Yeah, Tapu Fini was 60 points, which really 10-point difference I don't think is that significant. I think it's worth it probably. But that being said, I like the Grimmsnarl. I think Grimmsnarl in draft is insanely good. Reuniclus is... So we ended up with a lot of, a very large majority of like the good Trick Room setters ending up in tier 3. Runerigus, Cofagrigus, Aromatis, Musharna, Reuniclus, all those kind of things were in there, and I think Reuniclus is probably the best tier 3 Trick Room setter in our draft. So getting that early, I think was super solid. Riolu, I think, is pretty good value for a tier 4. You're getting good coaching into, potentially Golurk or Halucha or Grimmsnarl, even if you're maxing Grimmsnarl or something. But yeah, I like this team a lot. Audino is a great tier 5 pick. So is Greedent. I wanted Greedent. I was mad that Greedent got taken. But Halucha with Unburdened stuff too is also really good. What are you guys' thoughts?
Well, similar to yours, he really took advantage of his tier 4s and tier 5s. Like Greedent, Garbodor, Riolu, Golurk, and Audino, I think are all really top of the tier picks in those areas. I feel this team may be lacking a little bit offensively.
I agree.
And in terms of speed control, like this is going to want to spend most of its time in Trick Room. except for that whole lucha.
Yeah.
True, that makes sense. Yeah,
But
for
it does.
me, yeah, to answer your point about sort of like damage output, I feel like this is the one of the most classic like teams in a draft league. In a draft league, you have, this is just a joke. You have two types of team: a Grimstyle team and a team that doesn't have Grimstyle. So every time when you have a Grimstyle team, it usually wants to set up screens and allow its teammates to set up. They always have a very strong tendency to set up, especially that very formidable Fire Water Grass core that Ben has drafted, the Fini and the Rotom, right? Always wants to set up and finally Dynamax to hit fast, hit hard. The great support really comes from Grimmsnarl and even Riolu. And I feel like this team seems to want to bring the same few mons every week. So there's something to watch out for. And these mons really cannot be underestimated. It's the kind of case where you know what's coming, but no matter how hard you prep for it, you still can't beat it. So this team should be able to switch well to stall an opponent's Dynamax and then create very good endgame scenarios. I feel like regardless of Tailwind or Trick Room, if it's Trick Room, just stall out the Trick Room. If it's Tailwind, maybe protect the correct mon and then Dynamax the correct mon in response. And I feel like Ben's team can really go quite far.
Yeah, I like this team. I agree with Wade that the threat level was a little low, and that's why it got a 7 versus an 8 in my book. But I think with the right pilot, and I know Ben is a good enough player, that he will be able to do well with it, I'm sure.
Nice.
All right, we good on this one?
We're good on this one.
All right,
Yep.
let's move on here. Pick 11, we got Gumi and the Rolled Gold Pretzels, candidate for best mascot. So, first off, Celesteela, Primarina, Raichu, like those three, you look at that and you're like, wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
I think that three mon core in and of itself makes this team incredibly scary. And then he got stuff like Togepi, which is a great tier 4 redirector. One of the only, I think probably the only redirector in tier 4. And, Runerigus I love as a TR setter, but also Primarina gets Aqua Jet and it can weakness policy. I ran that a couple times in RPDL, and I know Wade has run the same thing.
Yeah.
Aerodactyl is a great pickup on offensive teams, especially with steel types. I love Aerodactyl in draft because Unnerve makes it so they can't eat berries, including which, to me, especially in draft formats, it seems like Babiri and Shuka berries are both pretty common. So having some decently strong ground and steel types on your team next to something like Aerodactyl, I think is really good. Buzzwole, I love that Buzzwole pick. I think that's pretty cool. Drampa, I love. And yeah, overall, I like this team. He got some good low tier picks, other than I don't 100% see what Octillery is doing here, but I could be proven wrong there.
Yeah, I did write in my notes, like this team is missing a grass type mon, for stat grass moves because Primarina, it is a good grass type mon, but it might not be the best. So I was thinking maybe replace Octillery. My notes for this team is that it's definitely a Raichu Celesteela team. I think Primarina comes as a bonus, forming a pretty solid Fairy Dragon Steel core. However, like this Fairy Dragon Steel core seems to be too slow for my liking. I think that some of these Dynamax mons kind of have to ride on Raichu's shoulders. So Gumi will have to preserve the Raichu as best as possible. Always, threatening that Raichu switching for protection with Lightning Rod. I feel like Gumi also has very good tools that can allow for creativity. With the Buzzwole and some other unorthodox mons, and this team can definitely operate in both Trick Room and Tailwind. Yeah, for speed control, the speed control side.
Yeah. And that Kangaskhan is a good tier 4 pick.
Kangaskhan is an amazing tier 4, yeah, I agree.
Kangaskhan is a brilliant draft mon.
Yeah, one thing one thing that I don't like about this team is the relative lack of physical offense. I mean, you've got Buzzwole, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so I know Celesteela can be both physical or special pretty much equally. So I see that part. But to me, I would want maybe one more like really threatening physical attacker on this team. Also, given the fact that in draft, I think Buzzwole is pretty easy to kill, because who's not bringing a flying move against a Buzzwole team?
True.
And it also just it can also just die really easily to neutral special hits as well. But I like it. Like, I think it's a hype pick. I don't 100% agree with it. I think it's not the best for this team. But overall, like, I still think it's really good, the team in general. I mean, I gave it a 9, so I think it's good.
Yeah,
I
we
think
actually ranked the
Buzzwole.
team quite true. I think we ranked the team quite high because of that very strong Raichu, Primarina, Celesteela core that you mentioned early on.
Yep. Alright, are we good with this one?
Yeah, we're at our
Good.
last team now.
Alright, last team for Superior. We got Joshi Washi and the Jubilife City Jirachis.
Nice,
So-
Joshi Washi is in chat.
Yeah, he was. Is he still? Well, we'll
I
find
hope
out.
so.
We'll find out. So Joshi Washi was the last pick, which I think in a 12-man draft is probably the best spot to be in.
Yeah.
So the Rillaboom Politoed Metagross, I really, really liked the first few picks from this team. I think that those three mons complement each other really nicely, and overall, like, I think it also sets you up for a good fire type later on as a strong Firewater Grass core. Scrafty, I love in draft. It did a lot of work for me in RPDL. Talonflame was 2-3, which I think is insanely good value for it. Talonflame just kind of assists the speed tiers, which really his speed tiers are high enough. Like, they're high enough that, like, you don't always need to run Tailwind, but you still have stuff that wants Tailwind, like Metagross and Rillaboom. Well, unless you're just clicking Grassy Glide, which I guess is what you're doing most of the time. Some of the things I find a little strange about it are Kingdra and Caracosta. I don't know that they were needed, honestly. Like, I know everyone was like, oh, we gotta get the Politoed Kingdra, but, like, I don't know. To me, it feels a little redundant. Like, I feel like maybe a different dragon type could have been better there, but I don't know. Kingdra bothers me less than the Caracosta. I think Caracosta being weak, 4 times weak to grass, is rough when you're setting grassy terrain. And then when you're also, like, you have basically 0 chance to live any grass move. But overall, I liked the team. I don't remember what I rated it. I rated it 7, I think. Yeah. What are you guys' thoughts?
I think like, yes, Kingdra is good in the rain, but in terms of special attacking, like, his hardest special attacker is Haunter. So that's not great, but it hits damn hard on the physical side of things in terms of you've got Rillaboom, you've got Metagross, and I know you don't like Caracosta, but it's still got 108 attack, which is better than the Kingdra. Yeah, I don't think you need 2 water type Swift Swimmers. I agree with you there, Sam. Maybe that was a spot where he could have looked at getting a bear tick or something like that. But overall, I think I rated it quite well, but I'm still not like, yeah, Rillaboom, Politoed, Metagross is a good solid, core. I'm just not sure how I feel about it still. I had an extra column of gut feeling, and I just yeah, I don't know.
I see.
Something-
My hot
some-
take. Okay, my hot take here would be your gut feeling is right. I rated this team very, very high. I think this was the highest team that I rated in superior division. So here are my thoughts. I felt like this team, like you draft Metagross in this is the same archetype again, right? It's either you have a Metagross team or you don't. So it's like maybe a Metagross team versus a Grimmsnarl team. Over here, this is a very well-built Metagross team because Rain really protects Metagross very well, and Rillaboom protects Rain very well. So I feel like Joshi really made full use of being on the edge of draft, always picking very good pairs together to form very, very strong core. So to me, this team has an extensive arsenal of support options to help it out. And if this team leads correctly against their opponent with accurate turn one plays, I believe it's always able to win games very quickly. It's very obvious sometimes if you lead how this team wants to chop Metagross's policy. I think I don't really want to spoil it here, but some moves, some ones definitely have bulldoze or fling. So there's a tendency for Josh to actually not lead with Metagross, maybe bring in the back, and I think that can also be very helpful. I feel like Sam made a very interesting point. Caracosta is 4x weak to grass, and then Josh actually picked up that Rillaboom, right? So you might think that the Caracosta is safe, but then again, the opponents can easily prepare Mons with Grassy Glide, and then catch him off guard and take out that Caracosta with Rillaboom on the field. So I agree with this interesting mix between physical and special rain abusers in Kingdra and Caracosta. Let's just see how it plays out. Let's just see how well Josh is able to use them.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think this is a team, maybe more so than any other, that if a couple transactions were made, it would shoot way up in my rankings. I think maybe dropping Ribombi maybe for like Bear Tick could be potentially good. Um, and then dropping Caracosta for any other tier 5, I think could
True.
also be good. Or maybe drop Kingdra for like a 2/3 dragon type. Um, and then you can move Caracosta up to Beartick with those extra points. I think that could be a potentially good move for Joshi as well. But I still like the team. I just think it's a little one-dimensional right now, and it could not be if, with a few transactions.
Like
I have one
Revombi
last.
speed swapping onto that Metagross is going to be a tough one as well.
That
Oh,
is
yeah.
true, yeah.
Let your opponent proc the right. Because they wouldn't even dare to hit Metagross with a super effective move. Yeah. I have one
Don't be a
last shout
pussy,
out.
do
I
it.
think I have one last shout out. I think that Morwell is really good Intimidate mod. I really like it. So
Yeah.
hopefully Josh is able to use it well.
Yeah, he's upset that you exposed him, Wade.
Is he? Sorry, mate.
Cool. That's all we have for
Awesome.
Superior Division, right?
Yeah, thanks to everybody who tuned in live to this. We're going to move on to Huron next, but for everyone watching on YouTube, thank you for watching, and be sure to check out the other PR videos, which will be dropping sometime very shortly after this one. And we will also be doing a overall kind of stats analysis afterwards as well. So be sure to check that out. And everyone live, I know it's gonna run long here, but be sure to check that out at the end as well. And that being said, thanks for watching, everyone, and we're gonna move on to Huron.